Now that we've built our high-fidelity prototype and conducted another usability study, I'll show you how to make updates to your designs in Figma based on feedback from participants. Although iterating on a prototype is a possibility and reality for many teams, it's time and cost intensive. So as UX designers, we try to fix problems in our static mockups instead. In this video, I'll demonstrate how to make changes to mockups and the prototype using the Dogwalker app as an example. Our latest usability study had participants review the high-fidelity prototype of our Dogwalker app, and a couple of insights were uncovered about the usability of the app. I've chosen to address two of those insights, as they are critical to improving the user experience. The first insight that came out of our research was that participants were unable to easily select a date from a calendar. The second insight was that participants did not know the price per Dogwalker until the end of the scheduling flow. Okay, it's time to start making updates to my mockups in Figma. Let me pull them up on my computer now. I'll start by updating the date selection screen. Remember back when we did the first usability study? Users said that the open field to type the date and time was too difficult to use. To fix that problem, I added a new date picker in the form of a scrolling wheel. In the latest usability study on the high-fidelity prototype, users still weren't happy with the scheduling functionality. They found the wheel easier to use, but when they wanted to schedule far in the future, they were only given the month and date to choose from. There was no day option. So if a participant only wanted to schedule a Dogwalker on Mondays, they had to open a separate calendar to find the date that corresponds to each day of the week. To make the scheduling more user-friendly, I can add a calendar pop-up to the scheduling page instead. That way, when users choose a day for their dog to be walked, they can get all the information they need at the same time. So how do I make this happen in Figma? First, I'll make a copy of the scheduling pages to act as our new version. I'm going to place them below the current version so I can easily keep track of where they go in the user flow. In the screen on the left, which is screen 2 of the user flow, I'm going to remove the wheel with the day, time, and duration options. I'll replace that wheel with drop-down menus. I'm going to use a drop-down here so when the user taps the day field, a calendar pops up. I'm going to go back to my sticker sheet and copy the drop-down with less rounded corners for this. I created these earlier, but building them is fairly simple. There's a rectangle with a rounded edge, a text label, and a down arrow icon to indicate movement. The down arrow icon came from the material design library. Then, I'll paste the drop-down over here on my new screen, where I deleted the wheel. I need to update the text to say day. I also need to increase the width of the drop-down to fill most of the width of the screen. Now, when this button is clicked, the calendar will appear. I'll build the screen for that in a minute. I also need to create menus for the time and duration, so I'll make 2 more copies of this menu component. These time and duration dropdowns will be side by side and will each take up half of the width of the day dropdown. In order for these 2 dropdowns to fit into the design, I need to move other components lower on the page, like the recurring booking checkbox and list of dogs that need to go for a walk. Great, screen 2 has now been updated. Next, let's figure out how to update screen 3 of our mockups. When a user presses the day button, the menu will expand and the calendar will be shown. Building out a calendar function in Figma can be pretty complicated. To create a calendar from scratch, I would need to draw the shapes, add all the numbers, and label the months and days for every month of the year. So this is the perfect opportunity to lean on a design system or the UX design community. Remember in an earlier video how I mentioned there are many ways to use design systems? Instead of drawing a calendar from scratch, I can insert a pre-made calendar that a big brand or another designer has already created. Using a pre-made component like this will save a lot of time. Thankfully, Figma has a community where you can explore other users' files and borrow components to reuse in your designs if they've made them publicly available. I'm going to navigate to figma.com/community. I made it. Now, I'll search for calendar templates. I like this one from Felipe, so I'm going to duplicate it. I'll paste the calendar from Felipe into the new screen, where the wheel was. But we're not done yet. This calendar is functional, but doesn't fit the design needs of the Dogwalker app. I need to change the colors, font, alignment, and spacing to make it perfect. This takes time, but it's worth the effort to make the calendar fully customized. And ta-da! Here's the finished calendar that I updated to match the style of the Dogwalker app. Next, I need to move the other dropdowns underneath. When the day menu expands, the rest of the page under it will automatically be pushed down. Let's check out how this works in a prototype. I've already set it up for you, so let me switch over there. So, let's test it out. Perfect. It's working as intended. Okay, I've addressed the first insight that came out of the usability study. Participants were unable to easily select a date from a calendar. The Dogwalker app now has a full calendar that users can select a date from. It's time to update my designs based on the second insight that came out of our research. Participants did not know the price per Dogwalker until the end of the scheduling flow. I'll start by making this update on the homepage of the app. Like I did earlier, I'm going to make a copy of the homepage for this new iteration. Then, I'll add prices. I'm going to add the price that each dog walker charges to the line of information with the star rating and distance, since these all seem like equally important pieces of information for comparing dog walkers. To do this, I'll highlight the distance text and icon and copy and paste. Then, I'll drag my new text box and icon to the right until the spacing is even between the star rating, distance, and price. We already determined the price for Sarah to walk a dog for 30 minutes is $10, so we should assume her hourly rate is twice that, or $20. I'll update the text box here. Now I need an icon. The easiest way to find icons is to use an existing design library like Material, then edit it to fit the style of your designs. So that's what I'll do now. I'll find a dollar icon from Material and paste it. Now I'll change the color so it matches the rest of my designs. Perfect. Now I'll copy the amount and icon to each of the other dog walkers on the page. And I'll edit the numbers so they're all charging different amounts in the same price range. Great. As soon as the user opens the app, they'll be able to compare the price that each dog walker charges. I'll need to make the same updates to add pricing information on other pages of the dog walker app too, including the browse page and the dog walker profile pages. For the sake of time, I won't demo this process again, but I'd repeat the same steps. Now that we've updated the mocks for certain pages of our app, we need to remove the pages we no longer want. I'm going to take the old versions of the pages and move them off my workspace. And I'll move my new mockups into the user flow. Let's test the whole prototype one more time. The user would enter the app on the homepage and click the Book Appointment button. Then, they'd move through the Book Appointment screens using our new calendar dropdown to select a date. As they continue through the rest of the user flow, there is increased transparency with the new pricing icons and text. Great. I now have a new and improved prototype. I made changes to my prototype based on feedback from the latest usability study. As a UX designer, you'll continually iterate to improve your work. You might be wondering, now what? Are we done? Do we have to do another usability study or a presentation to stakeholders? Great questions. I'll answer those coming up. But first, get to work on your own project. Make changes to your designs based on feedback you received during your usability study. Catch you later.